Let's discuss these issues separately and together with Congressman Sean Duffy. He's a Republican from Wisconsin, chairman of the House Financial Services Subcommittee on Oversight and Investigations. Congressman, always a pleasure. Let's start with what's going on the floor right now. The polls are so obvious on this issue, and you know, we always chase after you guys about trying to please the polls, but not on guns. No matter how strong the numbers are to do something more, the Congress, certainly your party, doesn't want to. Why?
Well, so first off, the polls are strong in that Americans don't want terrorists to have guns. That's true. But they also want to protect the Second Amendment and make sure that Americans who aren't terrorists don't get ensnared in the no-fly list and the I can't buy a gun list. John Lewis, who was leading the charge on the House floor, was ensnared in the no-fly list. How does this list work? How do you get off it? That's a reasonable conversation. But Chris,
Congressman, you're not
having.
Here, let me stop you there because you just made a good point. We should unpack it. You're not having that conversation. We both know how the no-fly list works. If you get stuck on it and you don't belong there, which is a very small number of people, you have due process. You get to argue. Sure you do. Right now.
How do you get off?
Right
Chris,
now, you
listen,
can.
Chris, hold on a second.
Yes.
No, you can't tell me the criteria for which you get on the list, and you can't tell me the criteria for which you get off the list. John Lewis, Ted Kennedy, the senator from Massachusetts, both of them could not get off the list.
Right, both wound up,
and it was
they both
hell
did
for
get
them.
off the list.
But Chris, hold on a second.
They both got off.
We're talking about terrorism right now.
Right.
Right? And so we should have a sit-in at the White House to say, you know what, Barack Obama, the inspiration for Orlando and San Bernardino and Boston is ISIS, radical Islamic terror. We want you to address it, Mr. President. We want you to take action. We want you to destroy it and defeat it. This has been rising under your watch, and you refuse. Our generals say we could take ISIS out in weeks, if not months.
Congressman.
And he refuses to do it, which inspires these radicals around the world. Let's address the real and the rising threat. This isn't about guns. Chris,
well,
did you listen to the videotape or the audio tape when Mr. Mateen called in 911 on the night of that horrible attack? Did you hear that?
Congressman, I heard it. I won't even say the guy's name. I don't think he's worthy.
But hold on.
I heard exactly what he said. I heard about. I heard it. Yes, the answer is yes. I did hear it.
Okay. Did Mateen pledge allegiance to the NRA or to ISIS?
ISIS.
To ISIS. So why in the hell are we talking about the NRA? Let's deal with this real threat.
I'm not talking about the NRA. I'm talking about the NRA.
We're talking about guns.
But I don't see those two things as the same, by the way. As a gun owner myself, I don't see the NRA as this problem. I think they have a lot of sway, but I think a lot of lobbies have sway. But let's unpack these one at a time. First of all, if you want to have a sit-in at the White House, I say go for it, brother. Go there and demand action. I don't know what you're asking for that isn't done right now. The generals do say they could take out ISIS, but we know what they're asking for. They're asking for boots on the ground, and you're part of a Congress that won't even have a vote on the authorization for use of military force against ISIS. What about that?
Let me tell you what, because the president already has all the authority that he needs that we had given George Bush to act and defeat this threat. He doesn't need any more authority. I mean, is he said, oh my gosh, I can't act to defeat ISIS because I don't have authorization from Congress?
Why won't you take control of the power that's yours?
But he has all the capability that he needs to go in. The president's already been given that authority.
Why has Congress? You never do that. You never give the president blank power. All you guys do is try to check the president, and I understand that, but not on this. You don't have a vote and say, we have weighed in and said this is what we want to happen against ISIS. You won't even have that debate.
The authorization that he sent to Congress actually restricted his power and authority to defeat this threat. It didn't expand the threat. It didn't expand his authority. He shrunk his authority. And we wanted to give the president all the authority necessary to defeat the threat.
Have your own
It's already been done. Well, Chris, but the point is, on your show, why aren't we debating terrorism? Why are we debating guns? Listen, the conversation should be, Director Comey at the FBI, a great guy, he has great agents, but something's missing at the FBI. We let again, Boston, San Bernardino, and now Orlando slip through the cracks. Something's going wrong. We should have a conversation about what tools do they need? What resources do they need? But when Democrats are weak on terrorism, they want to divert from terrorism. They want to talk about guns. Listen,
I think you need to talk about both. The FBI is asking for a very specific power that none of these bills touch.
That's what they're asking about that stuff. And when you have a president,
because both matter.
When you
keep
have
having
Benghazi,
people get these guns, it continues to be an issue. You have
Chris,
90% of the American people agree with that proposition.
When you have Benghazi, and the president doesn't talk about radical Islamic terror, he talks about a video. When you have Major Hassan, who comes in Fort Hood and shoots people, he calls that workplace violence. This president will not address this threat. And if you don't have a radical group like ISIS that inspires the Orlando shooter, you don't have an Orlando shooter. This is the president's job to defeat this radical group, and he refuses to do it. And Democrats are supporting his unwillingness to actually engage and win the fight. And in my district, people know what the threat is. They know the threat isn't guns. They know the threat is radical Islamic terrorism. And they sit home and they scratch their head and they wonder, why don't Democrats and this president want to engage in a fight that actually makes America win? You wonder why we have a rise of Donald Trump, because Donald Trump goes, I want to make America great again. We're going to fight. We're going to win. We're going to defeat the threat. We're going to talk about the true issue that's inspiring this radicalism. We're not going to get sidetracked. Are we going to ban pressure cookers that were used in Boston?
Once.
Are we going to ban hatchets and knives?
They were used once, a pressure cooker. If you keep seeing it again and again as a tool, it would then start to fit the model of what you see with semi-automatic rifles in these mass shootings. But I take your point on it. This conversation, I want to have this conversation as often as you want to have that, and you know that, Congressman. We invite you all the time to talk about what matters. 2 points for us to take going out of this for the next conversation. One is, we have a lot of gun violence in this country, disproportionate to other countries of our size and of our amount of progress. 2, I don't agree with you on the AUMF issue. I believe if it matters so much to Congress to dictate what happens against ISIS, the president is so wrong on it, in your opinion, you guys should debate it and come up with your AUMF. It's your constitutional authority to do it. That's the only place where I see some kind of hypocrisy in what you're saying versus what you're doing.
So I'll take your point on that, Chris, but I would say he has the authority. It's already been given to him. Well, we're new at Congress. We could give him new authority, but we didn't like what he had sent over because it did shrink the power and the authority, but point well made.
I'm just saying, you can debate it whenever you want, just like you say you should be doing. That's all.
And I know we're wrapping, but I do think this is a conversation about terrorism, and you don't hear anyone on the House floor talking about how we defeat the threat of rising terrorism. They've been wanting to talk about guns for decades. And they're trying to use this issue to talk about guns instead of the real threat. And in middle America, where I come from, that really frustrates people because they want to address this threat. They want to feel safe in their homes, in their countries, in their schools. And they know that you can take away guns, but you're not taking away the real threat and the real cause of the violence that's coming from the Middle East right now. And that's what they want the Congress and the President to work on to eradicate and defeat.
Congressman, last word to you, Sean Duffy. Thank you for being on.